Hello, everyone, and welcome back to This Day in History, our nightly look back at a specific day in history, where we take a look back at the events of that day, the historic context in which the events took place, and the historic ramifications of the events. We also take a look at some people that were born and some people that died on that day. As always, if you have not yet, please hit that subscribe button, the bell notification icon to be alerted anytime I post new content, and tell a friend. And without any further ado, this day in history, March the 23rd. And on this day, in 1919, Benito Mussolini established the Fascist Party. On March 23rd, 1919, Mussolini, a World War I veteran, and publisher of a socialist newspaper, established a fascist political party that would dominate Italian life into the 40s. In 1922, King Emmanuel II asked Mussolini to form a new government. Mussolini soon became the country's dictator. Mussolini ruled Italy until 1943 with an iron fist, when Allied armies invaded Italy during World War II. Mussolini was arrested when Italy surrendered. 8 days later, German commandos freed Mussolini from his prison and made him head of Germany-controlled northern Italy. With the surrender of Nazi Germany in 1949, Italy partisans captured Mussolini and executed him and his mistress. And the photograph of Mussolini's end is one of the more famous pictures from World War II. It's a very brutal execution. He and his mistress were pretty much strung up outside of a gas station there in Rome, and it's a very it's one of those pictures from war. You're like, wow. Mussolini was just a terrible individual, and should be remembered as such. I've not seen many people write flowingly of Mussolini, as no one should. He was very aligned with Adolf Hitler, of course. Part of the reason that Italy failed, though, in World War II is because of its position. The British Navy was able to box them in at the Suez Canal and the Strait of Gibraltar, and that made the Navy getting out very hard. And then when America entered the war, it also made the British Navy would allow the United States Navy into the Mediterranean, and that was all she wrote, pretty much for the Italians, and we cut off their supply lines to Africa. So, yeah. Births that occurred on this day. In 1952, in Wichita Falls, Kansas, Rex Tillerson was born. Tillerson served as Secretary of the United States from February 2017 until March of 2018. Tillerson grew up in a upper middle class family. His father was an executive in the Boy Scouts of America, and Tillerson himself would go on to achieve his Eagle Scout badge and remains active in the organization to this day. He received a bachelor's degree in engineering from the University of Texas at Austin in civil engineering, and was also in the marching band at UT. And he moved his way from a production engineer at Exxon all the way up to CEO. Tillerson was an unconventional pick in late 2016 to be then President-elect Donald Trump's Secretary of State. But apparently he came with the recommendation of former Secretary of State Dr. Condoleezza Rice. He was unconventional because he had never held a government post. And he really saw this position as a way to give back to the country. He had never served in the military, and he wanted, or in public office, and he saw this as a way to serve his country. He really felt he had a mission to serve his country. A lot of people attacked him at first because of his ties to Russia. As an oil executive, he had a very close relationship with Vladimir Putin. But once in office, he took a very hard line on Putin, despite the indifference shown by the then, well, as we're recording this, the president, Donald Trump. He often would break with the administration on issues. He had supported Common Core as a member of the private sector and wrote an op-ed in favor of it. He supported the United States staying in the Paris Climate Accord. He supported the Iran nuclear agreement. Just a number of issues where he broke quite sharply with the president and the administration. And Trump and Tillerson bumped heads. It was a very untenable relationship from the early days in the administration. There is a famous press account that early on in the administration, the defense secretary, the treasury secretary, and the chief economic advisor all had a briefing with the president in a highly secure room at the Pentagon called the Tank, explaining the importance of America's free trade agreements, our ambassadorial and diplomatic staff, and United States bases around the world. And Trump just lost his cool, became belligerent, and stormed out of the room and made, according to a press account revealed in early 2020 in the book A Very Stable Genius by Philip Rucker and Carol Leonnig. You should read it or get an audiobook version of it. It's a very good book. I have read it. That he derided the military and said they were a bunch of losers, which caused most in the room to hold their tongue, although they were deeply offended. Tillerson pushed back, and apparently, as Trump left the room, he said, he is, and I'm using Rex Tillerson's words here, not my own, a fucking moron. So, obviously, you can't have the Secretary of State calling the president a fucking moron because how does that relationship work? News of that broke about a month to 2 months after the account. He apparently got a dressing down from Vice President Mike Pence. He threatened to resign after Trump's comments about Charlottesville and comments at the Boy Scouts convention in 2017, where the president made a lot of inappropriate remarks for a Boy Scouts event. He was deeply offended by these events. Trump, as he does with most people that fall out of his favor, let him willow in the wind and would taunt him on Twitter. He said that he would like to take an IQ test with Mr. Tillerson and see who had a higher IQ. The president pointed out that he was a graduate of an Ivy League university, and Tillerson was not. It all finally came to a head in March 2018, shortly before it was announced that the president would be traveling to meet with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Tillerson was fired. He had a meeting with the president at the White House, and the president announced that Tillerson would be leaving, or Tillerson was asked for his resignation letter and Tillerson handed it in. The president simply tweeted out on Twitter that Mike Pompeo would become Secretary of State, Gina Haspel would become Director of the CIA, and that Rex Tillerson would be leaving the State Department. Tillerson had, according to different press accounts, little to no warning of this and did not speak to the president until after the event occurred. It was a very shocking end to Tillerson's reign as Secretary of State. And the accounts Tillerson has gave of the few that he's gave of his time in the administration are very shocking. Deaths that occurred on this day. In 2011, the age of 79 in Los Angeles, actress Elizabeth Taylor died. Taylor was a very popular actress and starlet of classic Hollywood. Throughout her life, her personal life, though, was the subject of tabloid gossip, including the fact that she was married 8 times. One of those times, she was married to a prominent American U.S. Senator, John Warner. They would divorce in 1982. Apparently, she became depressed and lonely because of a long work schedule that a United States Senator requires, and they were not able to spend time together. And during that time, she became addicted to prescription drugs and alcohol. Thank you all. I will see you again tomorrow.